Brent in Chatswood has given us a call. G'day, Brent.
Hi, how are you?
Terrific. What do you reckon?
Just going back to the electric vehicles rather than the hydrogen vehicles, I think there's two things that people have to realise. Electric vehicles are stationary. All vehicles are stationary for 94% of their lifetime. And so what we don't need is faster charging. The very, very slow charging in the apartment blocks that can come off 10 amp power points or the 16 amp power points, which are legal, is sufficient for trickling it. And that can be, supported by faster public charging when you come back from like a weekend journey to Port Stephens or whatever. And then the second thing is what we've noticed working with these strata buildings over the last 8 years on this EV charging dilemma is as the batteries get bigger, you don't need faster charging. Bigger batteries mean, you can store and harvest energy as you move, from different places. So rather than the mindset of totally filling up your tank, like it would be with a petrol car, people will start grazing for power and harvesting power into the bigger batteries. And the bigger batteries in the cars don't mean you need faster charging. You can just do that scavenging for power.
Right. On the text line, Brent, one listener says there are qualified people to speak about this, like Brent at Wattblock, who's a specialist in strata, including EV charging. Is that you?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, good. I'm glad you've called in at the exact same time that other people are saying that I should talk to you. So you think it's a furphy to say that there's a problem about the fact that we need to wait for 15 minutes for our electric vehicles to charge at petrol stations?
Look, I think it's going to be a combination. You've got the vehicles sitting stationary, not doing anything for such long periods. And as people begin to accept and adjust their thinking around charging, and they become a lot more observant of the kilometres after you've of range in the vehicle, you could complement like a very slow charge, a backup. Think of the apartment buildings as giving you a backup supply, and then you complement that with the fast charging, which will eventually be in all the petrol stations and public charging stations provided by councils, provided by state governments, and that's the method by which we'll get the solution. And it's not a doomsday event, and it's adjusting people's perceptions about how fast they're going to be able to charge. And if you want fast charging, you go to a Tesla supercharger, you go to a Tritium fast charger at a public space, and the rest of the time you'll be using these trickles to supplement it. And people will just become more aware of the power. And the other thing we've seen is people being attracted to getting the power from better sources like solar as well. So people will be, turning on their cars to trickle charge off a solar supply during the middle of the day because they also want it cheaper as well. So, that's the thing that we've been finding. The other thing I would just point out is that there's government funding coming from the state government for large strata buildings with over 100 car spaces. But we also need to, look at some funding assistance, obviously for the small strata schemes, because the average apartment block in New South Wales is a 12 apartment red brick or white brick walk up, and they're the ones that have the older infrastructure, and they're the ones that need the most government assistance.
Yeah. Professor John Rose from the Sustainable Transport Futures Department at the University of Sydney Business School. Do you want to say anything to Brent from Wattblock before he goes?
Yeah, thanks. The $163,000 quoted for my building was actually from your report, and that was your recommendation. So yeah. I agree, but this is the type of thing, like the situation is changing so quickly, but that is literally a Wattblock report where your recommendation is our building spends $163,000.
So what we're doing is we're actually giving people a range of different options, and think about starting with a visitor car space or a loading bay, or some strata schemes are actually creating a new space that wasn't on the title, and just putting one charge point in that might cost you $6,000, and that's your interim step before you go to, the 163,000. Or look, we've come across buildings where to do every car space it would be $500,000. So obviously that's not going to happen in the immediate short term. What it's going to be is a gradual move from general power outlets with meters on them to shared charge points in shared spaces. And that, there are a lot of studio apartment owners that don't even have a basement car parking spot, and they need to be able to come inside their building where they live, bring the EV in and charge in a shared space. And then from that, start, incrementally rolling it out, perhaps floor by floor, if you've got a multi-level basement car park. And I agree, it's basically just working out a roadmap to step through those different steps as the number of vehicles increase inside the building.
Brent, thanks for the call. Good to talk to you.
No worries. Thank you.
Brent from the company Wattblock about how you charge your electric car. When you get one, you don't actually have enough space or ability to charge it in your apartment or in your home.